This is what Aaron Judge said to the media after the World Series ended and the Yankees lost in Game 5. Aaron Judge said to the media, "I know this is only going to fuel a lot of guys. It'll fuel me especially. Falling short in the World Series will stick with me until I die." This is something that we need to talk about because as leaders, you will have people who drop the ball. Aaron Judge dropped the ball. He's being blamed for the deluge of errors and the pending mistakes that took place after that led to the loss of the Yankees and the victory for the Dodgers last week. He dropped the ball. He dropped a routine fly ball in center field. I kind of know what that feels like because I played center field all throughout high school, and I played a lot of softball. It's near and dear to me, huge baseball fan. And he dropped the ball. He made a mistake at a critical time. It cost them morale. It cost them stability. It cost them the lead, one might say. But does he need to have that stick with him until he dies? This is something to think about. You have people in your organizations who drop the ball. How do you treat that person? How do you handle it when someone drops the ball? Aaron Judge, I just looked up a few of his statistics of this outstanding, record-breaking baseball great. First of all, he's 6'7". He holds the AL record for most homers in a season, surpassing Roger Maris. Aaron Judge hit 62 home runs in one season. I have not done that. He's the MVP from 2022 and Rookie of the Year in 2017, and he has many more statistics to his name. Yes, he had a bad season toward the end, and he didn't play great in the World Series. And he dropped the ball. It's a really terrible feeling to drop the ball. And I know he's being paid millions upon millions of dollars to catch the ball. So Aaron Judge is all these things. He's all of these statistics. He is the image we hold in our minds of himself, but he's also a human being. This experience of watching him drop the ball and then reading about it and watching his own head talk toward himself, which I'm sure must be awful right now, it led me to a storyline from when I was early in my career, and I dropped the ball. I dropped a pretty big ball. I was an account executive at BBDO Chicago, and it was my job, it was my responsibility to make sure all of our production estimates were signed by the client. And I had a 3-ring binder filled with signed estimates. And I came across a day that my boss, Ann, came into my office and said, "Hey, Cindy, do you have that signed estimate for the radio broadcast spots we're doing for ethnicgrocer.com? I need a copy of that in my office. I have Ilya on the phone, our client." I had dropped the ball. I didn't know it yet, but I went over to that 3-ring binder and I looked through the binder to the right date, and I saw the estimate, and the line was blank. I hadn't gotten the signature. And at that time, I'm going to date myself here, this was like the turn of the century, 2000. It was like about $20,000 to do the work we were going to do for them. It was a lot of money. And you know what Ann did that taught me something really, really formative? Ann, who was 3 levels higher than me and my direct line, she came to me and I told her flat out what had happened, and I virtually said, "I dropped the ball. I don't have the signature, Ann." You do not know the knot I had in my stomach when I told her that. And she looked at me and she could sort of see the wheels turning, and she said, "Okay, you know what, Cindy? That's on me. I should have had closer contact with you and communication about that. So I'll take the fall and I'm going to go talk to the client." I was like, "You did what? You took the fall for me?" Wow. That is something that sticks with me until I die. is the generosity and the leadership that she displayed. And I ask you, when someone in your organization or on your team drops the ball, how do you do? You know, some of the things that came up for me when I watched the Aaron Judge storyline were around heightened emotional thermometers, right? When we're really high on our emotional thermometers, we can't think or see clearly. So be careful of your emotional thermometer and do not talk with your colleague or your team member until you've calmed down. There's a 4-hour rule I learned from a good friend. If you're really angry, give it 4 hours. If you can't, give it at least 4 minutes and 4 sets of full, deep breaths. The other thing to think about is how to watch out for blaming. Watch out for blaming others, especially if you might have responsibility in that. What was your responsibility, if any, in the conflict or mistake that took place? I don't think it's fair for the Yankees to blame all of this on Aaron Judge. They hadn't scored enough in the previous games. They hadn't scored enough in the previous innings, one might argue. This is not Aaron Judge's fault. He made a mistake. It was a big one. It was costly. It was in a moment that was, prime time for their stakeholders. But it's not his fault that they lost the World Series. And the third and final thought I have is to watch out for the other people or the other person, meaning that you should watch out for them and protect them from harm. If you see someone at work who's dropped the ball and you see people coming at that person emotionally or with anger because it was a big thing that happened, extend grace, give positive feedback. Think of the list of things that person has done as an MVP. They have so many wonderful qualities that have gotten them to that point. Honor those. Talk about those. Give grace and remember what it would feel like if it was you and assess it with the person. Was it avoidable? Was it just a mistake? Was it due to stress? Was it due to exhaustion? Was it due to poor planning, in which case there needs to be a plan put in place? What was the reason? Start slow. So if you are mad at Aaron Judge, join the club. But I don't know. Do we really have the right to judge in this situation when so many other balls were in play?